Welcome to Todd Talks, a small segment of our Plywood Palace Garage YouTube channel. I'm your host, Todd Touchberry, and today we're stepping back to a time when roads were dirt, speed was measured in courage, and the automobile was still a mechanical marvel. At the heart of it all, the car that put the world on wheels, the Ford Model T. But we won't stop there. We'll also look at other pre-war classics and talk to the people who keep them alive.
So grab your driving goggles, advance the spark, and let's take a ride into the golden age of motoring.
Good. All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, Jay. Jim, you there? Jen, can you hear us? Nope. We'll give her a second to get back on. All right, I know we have a few guests already. Steve from Fliver Channel, Joe. Joe's become a fan of several channels lately. And Robert. Jen, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Okay. All right. All right. So I want to welcome Jay here tonight. Jay Corman. We met several years ago, and through Model Ts, of course. And we actually met up at homecoming in Richmond. I think it was the very first time we met, and crossed paths several times since, including on the cross country trip. He was a big supporter of ours, and arranged some other ones to join with us on the first day. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But Jay, Jen and I both have a series of questions for you that we've come up with, and had a few other people that wanted us to ask on their behalf. And Robert said Jay is a cool dude. That's for sure. And Steve says hey. And all right, what's the first question, Jen? We got here. Do you remember? And like I said, this is kind of informal, and it's just kind of a laid back deal. We're not professionals at this like Steve from Fliver Channel by no means whatsoever. So do you remember the exact moment that you realized that you wanted to start having classic cars, not just necessarily Model Ts, but just classic cars in general, vintage cars?
Yeah, I grew up around cars, mom, dad, my grandpa had a car shop, and my dad was always into cars. So I kind of grew up around old cars. But as far as the Model Ts go, I went through a phase where I wanted to build a rat rod. I know it's kind of a bad word.
I think we all go through that phase.
With the classic cars, but I wanted to build a rat rod / hot rod. And so, I was looking for a body, and I came across some Model Ts, and then it kind of started there for me.
So that's what actually just hooked you on the Model Ts to start with, is just finding a body?
Yeah, that's what was my original goal. But then I came across the Survivor, and that hooked me on the original Model Ts.
Now, I think one of our early conversations that you and I had were that neither one of us had ever driven a Model T when we got our first Model T. Is that what I remember? Yes.
Yeah, I'd never driven one.
So that's an amazing feat to be able to get in it and drive it for the first time and be successful, because it's people have hot rods and other people, have classic cars and such. And for the most part, it's like driving a modern car, unless you can't drive a straight drive on some of them. And I actually talked to someone today that's in their 20s. That was yesterday. And he said, I can't drive a straight drive when I took him for a ride in the Model T. And then we got done, we got back, and he just sat in it for like 10 minutes. And I was like, ready to get out. I've experienced enough of it, but yeah. It's cool to get people to experience it too. And I know you've done the same thing.
Yes.
All right. So what was the next question we had here? All right, let's talk about your first Model T. Let me see if I can get that video to come up. There we go. And so where did you find this at?
Well, that first picture was taken when it first was pulled out of the barn here in Chatsworth. It was probably around 2015, 2016, and it went to a guy in Texas, and he got it running and everything, and then he sold it off to a guy there in Richmond, Indiana, and that's when I found it. Like I said, I was on Facebook, with all the classified pages and stuff, looking for a body for, to build a hot rod with. And I came across this Survivor car, and just the story, the original family just had a lot of history, and I was kind of hooked on it. So I started chatting with the guy, and I'm originally from Indiana, so my family's in the Indianapolis area. And so when I went up there for Christmas that year, I went and looked at it. So of course this is December. There's still snow on the ground. The windows don't go up anymore. He took me for a ride, and I was hooked. I was like, I gotta have this car. Bring it back to Georgia. Shared story. I didn't know how to drive one. I didn't know a lot about them. I just wanted the car, the look, the story, and find my way, sharing it and showing it at shows and stuff. That's kind of how I got hooked with my first car, and I got hooked into the Model T world.
Now, this is when you got it, or the first picture was when you first got it. Is that right?
That very first picture with it up on the ramp with no tires or anything, that was when it first was pulled out of a barn and went to Texas. I didn't find it originally, but I think I was the third owner it got passed down to after it was pulled out of the barn.
All right, so we had a few more people join us. Heath from Mountain Motors. He says, hello. Todd Wheeler. I can't remember what state Todd Wheeler's in. We met him out in Vegas. And Steve's there from Flipper Channel says his dad, the green one that he has, let him drive it. And he said he was scared the heck out of him. And it can be scary. It can definitely be scary. And Small Wood says, what are we going to learn today? We're going to learn a lot probably, or either absolutely nothing. I'm not sure. So, but anyway, let's go to the next picture. I guess this was after you got it running here, this particular one.
Yeah, that was at my first car show once I got it back down to Georgia from Indiana. Like I said, what was that?
I asked you earlier about, neither one of us knew how to drive one. How long did it take you to learn how to drive it and be confident that you could take off and go somewhere?
Well, it took me quite a while. Like I said, I went and looked at it in December. I think that was 2020. It was COVID time.
Gotcha.
And he took me for a ride. I didn't know how to drive it. I was like, I got to have this car. So we talked about it, worked out a deal. About 6 months later, during the summer of 21, I went up to Indiana, got it, brought it back. He gave me a 10-minute lesson. I drove it in a little field there by his house. So once I got it back, I was pretty nervous and scared about getting it off the trailer. So I didn't drive it or fire it up. I just put it in neutral and pushed it off the trailer. So here we are. Like the car's in the middle of the street. Not sure if I can even get this thing started or not, because I had a 10-minute lesson, and that was 2 days ago. So I get it fired up. I get it out of the road. I'm like, all right, let's take it around the block. So I get it fired back up, take it around the block. I overheated it because I probably had the throttle up too high, and when you let off, I was just in low gear. So I let off, and put it in neutral and just revving it too much. So I overheated it, boils over. I'm like, well, that didn't really work for me. I go to try it again, and the battery dies. So here it is, still in the street. It's off to the side, but it's in the street. So I run around trying to find a new battery. I end up at a Tractor Supply, found another 6-volt battery, got it in. I was like, all right, I'm taking it straight to the garage and parking it. So I got it fired back up and put it in the garage. And I was like, all right, it's safe, out of the road. I got to figure this out. It's probably going to take me a little while. But I had to get it over to my storage. I thought I could just drive it, a few miles down the road to a storage and park it there, because I didn't really have room in my garage for it at the time. I probably shouldn't have bought it, but I fell in love with it, had to have it. I was like, all right, let's just figure this out. So I had to go buy a trailer and realized I could take it to car shows that way, and it just sort of snowballed from there.
All right, Heath says, Jay, he saw a post of yours where you took the Model T to a local school to share it with history class.
Yes, it's not this car, but it's one of my other cars. And yeah, I took it to a school. It was about an hour and a half away, and I showed 3 of his history classes and gave them all, pretty much everybody, a ride. We had plenty of time. I gave them all a ride around the school. Told them a little bit about the history, but they were learning about Henry Ford and stuff in the history class. And the teacher reached out to me on Facebook. At first, he reached out to the national page, and then we told him to reach out to the Georgia page. And I was hoping somebody closer to him would chime in and do it, but they didn't. So I said, all right, I'll take the day off and I'll load up the car and bring it down there. Luckily, it was a beautiful day, and we had a good time.
How long had you been driving Model Ts before you started taking people for rides?
I'd say at least 2 years, because in 2020 or 2022, our Georgia club had our first little tour, and that was my first real experience of driving it out on the open road, and with some other Ts. So, about 2 years.
Definitely. Like,
Randy?
When Todd took me for my first driving lesson, I panicked in low gear, and I refused to go in high gear because it terrified me. In fact, Todd, tell him what I said the first time we got into high gear.
Yeah, we cruised up around our neighborhood or whatever. I got it pretty good around the driveway. We have kind of a semicircle driveway and down the road, and I got pretty good at that. And I learned to drive on a tractor, when I was a kid. So I think that really helped with the throttle being up here and your pedals being on the side and everything. And I raced with 2 feet anyway when I raced cars. So we were riding around in first gear, and people out on golf carts and bikes or whatever. And Jennifer, she says, I feel like we're hauling ass as a bicycle passed us first time we went in second gear. Yeah. That's a true story. But Randall from Shed by the Track says, for his first drive, I just pulled out of the driveway and it's straight into traffic. Fear is a great motivator.
Wow.
So Randall's one to learn from. I've watched a lot of his videos with Shed by the Tracks. Let's see what other pictures we've got of your first one here. What all had you done to it at this point? Your tires and such.
That's the first day I got it right there. I got it home. It's still on the trailer. My wife came out and took a picture. I mean, look at my smile. I was loving it. I was like, I gotta figure this out and drive this thing. But of course, I didn't really know what I was doing, and a little scared to fire it up on the trailer and not knowing if it would jump forward or not. So I just put it in neutral and pushed it off. Luckily, it stayed straight, didn't fall off.
All right, the small woodlot says, let me see if I had this correct. Far left pedal is high, low, middle is reverse, and far right is brake. That's correct.
Yes.
And jogging speed feels fast. Yeah, jogging speed does feel fast in a Model T, Steve. Let's see what else we got here on this first car. This was it's always cool to have pictures from the first time.
Yeah,
ours still snowed when we got it back.
Yeah, that was my first car show. I think I took that picture is when I took it to a historical society event up near where it was pulled out of the barn.
So when you had your first car show right here, how prepared were you to answer questions? Because people always have a T story or they have questions.
Well, the car did come with a lot of history. And so I knew most of the backstory of the car. So I knew enough to talk about it, but I still told him, I'm like, well, this is the first car show. I just got it, 3 weeks ago, and I'm still learning how to drive it. But the story that I know is, it was pulled out here, and this family had it, and it's original Georgia car, and just talk the best I could.
Gotcha. It's fun to do. It's fun to do, but sometimes I feel like I'm repeating myself and not sure if I told the same person the same thing again sometimes.
Yes.
So, all right, I don't have any video part for this part about the which Jen has some questions here for number 4.
Okay, so over the years you've owned a couple of different Model Ts. How many total have you had?
I believe around 10. A few of them I've, was able to brought it home, and then we got it running and then sold it. It's kind of, the plan was to do this to support my hobby. And then sometimes I would get one and I'd fall in love with it and want to keep it for a little while. And then the plan goes out the window as far as flipping it. So, but yeah, about 10. That includes a couple of the Doodlebug tractors that I have.
So which was one to sell?
What was that?
Which one was the hardest one to sell?
Ooh, the hardest one to sell. Probably the 23 coupe that I brought on the coast to coast tour with you guys.
Oh no, you sold it?
Yeah, I sold that one. And then the TT truck from here recently was kind of hard to sell. I really liked that one, but I needed the money to do something else with, and so the plan was to sell that one anyways. But I kept it for a little over a year. But it was time for it to go and move on.
All right. I can't remember his name on the Smallwood lot. Maybe you'll remind me in the comments. But anyway, he said he got passed by a bicycle and a TT truck. And hello, Jasmine. She is tuned in. And yeah, Steve, it's hard to believe he's got 10 or had 10. That's crazy. Jen, what else you got on this one?
So do you regret selling the 23 one, or is there one that, like, if you had a chance to buy one back, is there one that you'd seek out again?
Yeah, I did like that one. I mean, there's times where I think about it, but no real regrets, because I've got others that I, play with and love, and you quickly forget about them. But I think if I had to go back and buy one, it probably would be that 23, the black coupe that I took with you guys on the tour.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Pat. His name's Pat. Pat, I'll never remember that. Probably. I'll maybe one day. And yep, that's right. All right, Jen. Anything else on that one?
That's it. We'll keep going with you, Todd.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about buy, sell, and trade, is there a particular one that you would hope to run across one day?
I do want a center door someday.
Have you had any touring cars or just enclosed cars?
I haven't had any open cars. I'm more of a closed car guy. That just seems to be what I like and fall into. But I do like the TT trucks. I would like one with the steel closed cab, and then possibly a center door.
Yeah, center door would be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could get in and out of that easy.
It's tight in there.
Yeah, it's tight. It's tight for sure. The guy that I was talking about earlier, the kid that I took for a ride, he's a bigger. You know how big I am. He's a bigger guy than me. So it was tight up front for sure. For sure.
Yeah, they probably definitely need a touring open car.
All right, let's talk about the ones that you're going to keep. So we'll start with this one, of course.
This one, yeah, that's my first tee. I'll probably never sell that. It's pretty sentimental, and I have a lot of history with it, and I really enjoy talking about it and sharing it. And yeah, if that would be the last one to go if I ever had to get rid of them.
So how often do you take this one out? Now, I mean, you're, for the sake of saying it too, you're also still active duty, right? Is that right?
I'm in the Georgia National Guard.
National Guard.
Yeah, I drill monthly, and then my summers I have a 2 week and sometimes 4 weeks. So those keep me busy, along with all my other activities and Model Ts.
All right, let's see which one's next on here. And these are for you tuning in. These are the ones that he's keeping. Heath has a question. Jay, the new Model T tires, do you have a favorite brand? He switched from Excelsior to Universal, and it seems to handle better. And we've had that conversation with him. Also, I've heard that Blockley from England is good. Do you have a particular one, or some of yours are used tires, or what are you looking for?
I've only this car's got used tires on it. I've had to replace one with another used tire just to kind of keep with the theme. But I don't, like I said, I don't really take this car out driving, far and much. I don't tour it or anything. Mainly on and off the trailer, or just around town, around my house and stuff pretty locally. But I did buy one. Well, go ahead. I did buy one set of tires for my other car because they were dry rotting and falling apart as I was driving down the road. But the Lucas tires out of California, I've had good luck with that set. Other than that, my cars have all come with tires. that were good enough to do what I was doing with it.
And Steve from Flipper Channel says, "Are you good with carpentry? Do you restore the wood carriage work yourself, or have you had to get into any of that?"
I haven't had to get into any of that yet. Most of all the cars I've bought that I've, we're running and driving, we're in pretty good shape and solid. There's a couple times I've had to glue a little piece here and there, tack something back up, but other than that, no full restores, nothing like that. I prefer the survivors, and then I just like to preserve them and keep them as original as possible.
So on this car, on his first car, has the rear end been rebuilt or anything? It's still got the velvet bearing in it, or?
As far as I know, not a lot's been done to this car to get it running. It didn't need much. Some spark plugs, carburetor. They had to put some tires on it, which they put used tires. But it fired right up. It runs good. It runs on the magneto even. And none of that was rebuilt as far as I know.
Steve up in Canada from Flipper Channel said he was pleased with the Lucas tires as well.
Yeah, I really like those balloon Lucas tires.
What's the license plate? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's to repeal the 18th Amendment. That's the prohibition plate. I had that plate several years before the car. And I even have a Georgia 1925 plate that I have on the back that I can run the year of manufacture. I had it before the car too. So.
And Randall from Shed by the Tracks says that that T looks great. Don't change a thing. No. And I'm reading all the comments because they can't see the comments. If y'all are curious as to why I keep reading them.
Yeah, I don't plan to do anything to it. Just to preserve it.
All right, tell us about this one and where we're at here.
Same with this car. This is the coupe. I got this one about 2 years after my first T. I had bought one in between these cars, which I had to quickly sell in order to go buy this one. I wasn't really planning on buying this, but I came across it and a couple people showed it to me. It was like, hey, this coupe it's a Georgia car. It's from Macon. I have the original sales receipt for it, and it was up in Tennessee. And this is the one I bought the Lucas tires for as well. So if you see those tires, they look really nice and new.
All right, so I want to point out one thing to all the T people that are watching. Leave me a comment real quick while we're talking about it if you see anything really out of the ordinary about this car. And this was something that I know Jay was actually searching about. And let's see if they come up with a comment or anything. But while we're talking about where we're at here.
Yeah, so like I said, I wasn't really planning on purchasing this car or anything, but it was brought to my attention, and it had some Georgia history. And so I reached out to the guy, and we had a conversation. And he was real particular about who he wanted to sell it to, because there was some hot rodders in the local area that wanted to buy it. There was a couple older guys that didn't know how to drive it, but they wanted to buy it. He was like, no, this car is a survivor, and, it's hard to drive. I don't want you to end up in a ditch or, destroying it. So we had a conversation. I went up and saw it, and he knew I was going to preserve it and keep it the way it was, not really do a thing. But the top had been redone, the visor, the seats have been recovered. But other than that, not a lot's been done to it. And then I put the new tires on it because they were starting to fall apart as I drove it around the first couple times. And so,
and what museum are we at here?
This one was the Savoy Automotive Museum in Cartersville. They were doing a locally owned exhibit, and they asked me to pick one of my cars to put in there, and so I picked this one.
All right, Heath, Randall, and Steve all guessed the radiator or grill. So, what can you elaborate on about that?
Yes, it was a dealer add-on for like $15. Is nickel. I've seen one other one in a picture, and then a couple people have told me they've seen one or two on tours, but other than that, not a lot of people see them. I don't know. It says it's Ford, made in USA, but it was a dealer. I think it was a dealer option or a dealer add-on accessory that they kept it on there. It survived. And
is there anything particular that's not standard on that car besides the radiator shell?
Radiator shell. No, I've got some pictures of it from when it was new, and it had some blinds and some shades for the back window and the back side windows. It has an exhaust like train horn whistle. You push a little pedal. It's the cable's obviously been broke, but there's a string now to it. I need to figure out a better way to rig that up, but it has a string you can pull when it's going in it.
I think those aftermarket pieces are pretty cool, especially that shell has definitely got to be a cool conversation piece with other Model T people. That's like when we take our touring car out, it has the California 2-man removable top, and rather than the convertible type that kind of folds back. And that one gets a lot of questions asked on it. I need to do a separate video on that one day. I get asked about that all the time. And let's see if I can get this to.
You there? Hello?
Yep.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
What was the original price in the 20s for that car?
This car, I believe, was between $500 and $600. It was kind of maybe a little on the higher end, because the open little 2-seater Roadster was around $300.
My whole thing froze up.
There we go.
We'll give that a second.
But yeah, it still has on front and back. It has a Georgia 1933 plate, still on it. It's got square nuts and bolts on it, so it looks like it's been there since 33. And I assume that was when they last registered it, parked it. I don't know much. I don't know a lot of history on it as far as its story from 33 on, but I do have some history on the original owner, his family. It's kind of a tragic story. The gentleman who bought it ended up passing away in a railroad accident, fairly young, and not long after he purchased the car. So I think his mom and dad kept it for a while, and they parked it.
All right, that's what a Rolls Royce behind it. Where was this at?
This was in Johns Creek area up in Georgia. It was kind of some sort of Atlanta car show. I don't know much about the show. It was the first time I'd ever gone. I think it was a fairly new show, but I just gotten back from one of my military trainings, and so I wanted to go to a car show. So I went to it. I found one. It was a nice weekend. I found it and took it.
Do you how many car shows do you think you go to a year?
I used to hit up a bunch of them. I've slowed down a little bit now. After you've done it for a handful of years and you've told the same story over and over, and plus I recently purchased a home with some acreage, so I've been working on my homestead and playing with my cars on my own property. But I'd say probably 10 to 20 a year during the summer months. I was trying to hit them up every weekend, every other weekend.
Pat said he's working on the Roadster as well. And is this on your barn, your property here?
No, that's a different car.
Yeah, we'll get back to this one.
Go back one. That one. No, that's at a big car show in Cartersville called Rides by the River. There's this barn back in the back, and each time I take a different car, I try to get a picture with that barn. It's really cool.
It is a cool barn. All right, let's jump to the next one here. Is this next one was it wasn't much left of this one.
No, this was one I recently picked up out of New York. I talked with this guy for quite a while. His dad had passed, and he had like 3 years to empty out the buildings that his dad had all this collection in. He had like 30 or 40 cars just piled in these buildings. This one was wedged in that corner. And so I went up and got this one. The motor's free. The interior is nice. It's got the patina and stuff that I like. But the tires were rotting off of it, so I had to peel them off to push it around. He took the fenders off the back so he could get it in that corner a little tighter. So yeah, this is going to be one of my projects in the near future. It's in the Miles Through Time Museum right now. I got some tires on. I got it cleaned up, and it just sits in there.
How long did it take you to get it out?
We spent a good couple hours. He had cleared out the area by the time I got there, and so we got it pushed out of the barn and winched up on my trailer. And then, of course, it was dark by then. I got there kind of late. It's one of those 24-hour deals where I drive up one day, get it, and then turn around and drive back home. Sleep a little bit in my truck and turn and burn.
Jen, you know anything about those trips?
More than what I'd like to know. Todd's famous for those. And then I get
we do closer to 48 hours, so we're a little older, or I am anyway.
Yeah, we have a tight schedule. We got 2 days. We got about 48 hours to get there and get back, and back to work on Monday. But yeah, I ended up just getting a storage building and putting it in there until I figured out some tires and stuff.
Now, I think we talked about this before. I think you have the most unique and a way that really makes sense if you think about it. Once you load a T up, whether you know about it or don't know about it, don't know if anything's going to fall off of it, or if you've had the car 2 or 3 years as far as transporting them down the highway. And how did you come up with this idea?
Well, when I got my first T and I realized I couldn't just hop in it and take off down the road and drive it wherever I wanted, whether it was to my storage or to a car show, I quickly realized I needed a trailer, at least until I learned how to drive it a little better. But this is just a little utility trailer. It's a 6x12. So, the cars are about 5 feet wide and around 11 feet long. So it fits perfect. And then, with the tops and stuff, a lot of my cars, the windows don't go up anymore, and the interior is fragile. It's original, and so I don't want to tear it up. So I shrink wrap it the best I can to mitigate the wind damage and any rain that I can prevent from getting inside.
How many rolls of saran wrap does it take you?
I usually use about a half roll. This car is a little smaller, but my 2-door sedan, my first car, is a little longer. It'll use up some shrink wrap pretty quick.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's a wonderful idea. Unless you've got an enclosed trailer, I think that's a wonderful idea. Pat says he has a Dust Bowl Survivor T as well, or has a Dust Bowl Survivor T, which we'd like to see that sometime too. And yeah. Alex from up in Illinois on. He says, hey.
Yeah.
So where we at here? Let's play the next picture here.
I love that picture there because it really shows how small the T is. I think people, when they think about the T, they don't realize exactly how small it is. And that's well with you saying it was just, a small utility trailer, because there's really not a whole lot of room in them.
Yeah, and the weight limit's 2,000, and none of the cars, unless it's a TT, really even get close to the 2,000 weight limit. So it was my cheap solution at the time. Right after buying that first car and already being in trouble for spending too much money, I needed a cheap trailer, and this is my solution, and I've held on to it. I need to get an enclosed trailer, but until then, this works.
That works.
Man, I tell you something. The thing about a trailer is you're never going to lose money on it, really. As long as you keep it in good shape, you can always get your money back out of it, at least for the most part anyway. And sometimes you can actually, if you buy a used one, you can actually make a little money on them.
Yeah, no, it's come in handy.
All right, what about this one?
That's the same car.
If y'all are just joining us, Jay's had at least 10 Model Ts, so that's why we have plenty of pictures to look at tonight.
Yeah, this is that same car, but I've got all the panels put on and put it back together, and I took it to the Miles Through Time museum. We pushed it up. Actually, Sean pulled. I was about to say, you pushed it up that ramp in the back. You did you got to work out. He pulled and I pushed. He had a pull rope, and we got it up in there. And then I ended up getting some tires, and bringing the rims. It was the demountable rims.
Yeah.
So I brought
Those are nice to have.
at a later time. So here it is with the rims on it and the tires. And then he was waiting to find a spot. He had to pull a couple things out and make room for it.
But you've had you had the Shriner car in there too.
Yes.
I don't have a picture of that. I don't think.
Yes, I've had 3 T's in there over a rotation.
It's a good place to store a T at for sure.
Yeah.
It makes a fun trip down there for sure. Let's
Yeah. I love that museum.
If I try to jump ahead, I know I'm gonna. Steve with Flivver Channel's got this stuff figured out. Steve never has technical difficulties.
That's right. This is my first time doing something like this, so
We do appreciate you joining in.
yeah,
Yeah, we need to get Sean from the museum there. We need to get him on sometime too.
yeah, sure we can.
All right, here we go. All right, tell us about this one. Are we back
This
in New
is
York?
This is another one from New York, the same guy's collection, but in a different building. And this was probably about 4 months later. I went back up there. I wasn't really planning on getting this car, but he couldn't really find anybody that wanted it. And so he was just like, I just need this thing gone. So he cut me a good deal, and I went back up there. I had to get an enclosed trailer for this one. I rented one. So that took me it was a big trailer. It took me a little longer to get up there, a little longer to get back. But, and then once I got it, and this is about the only picture I had of it. You couldn't really see much of it because there was boxes all around it. So I didn't really know what I was getting. But once I get up there and I get it pulled out, I started getting excited about this car.
I think that'll be the next picture here coming up.
Yeah, it's
We're at New York, was it? Wasn't in New York City or anything, right?
No, it was Binghamton, just right across the Pennsylvania border. So I didn't have to go too far into New York, but still, it was a good haul up there with the big trailer.
I think this next picture, like I tried to move it and I went too far. Pat says the Dust Bowl survivors on his channel. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, love survivors.
All right, there's a picture on the outside.
Yeah, that's a
Or is
good
this when you got it back?
pretty much. This was I've moved it to my new house now, but yeah, this was once I got it back and got it all together and kind of cleaned up a little bit. But I just still don't have tires on it yet, but I have to be very careful. I shrink wrapped this one too when I put it on this trailer because some of that wood is a little rickety. So I got to be careful, but I don't want to do a whole lot to it either. I want to get this one running.
What year is this one?
This is a 16. The body was made in Maine, and so when I first got it, I reached out to a couple museums in Maine, and at first they didn't really seem interested, but I heard back recently from one, because they close up in the winter time, and so they're about to reopen here in May. And so he reached out to me, and he's going to do an exhibit on some made in Maine cars, and he wants me to get this car up to him. So sometime next month, I'm going to try to figure out a way to get this up to Maine and let them put it in their museum for a couple of years. And then once I get it back, I may try to get it running.
That's pretty cool. Didn't realize that about that.
Yeah, there's a little tag on the back of the seat rest, that little bar. It says "Made in Maine," and the C.L. Meringue is the name of the builder. And so he had a small little dealership there in Ellsworth, Maine. And so I was able to dig up some history on him and his dealership history. And so it's pretty cool. They've got a historical society up there in Ellsworth. So I've reached out to them, but they don't really have any place to put it, or I'd put it in one of their museums. So, but the Seal Cove Museum in Maine wants to exhibit, show it for a couple of years.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
All right, the next thing we got on here is something a little unique, not necessarily a Model T, but it derived from a Model T. And we'll let it play because every time I try to skip, it skips too far. Yeah, the arc on the roof is pretty cool, Steve.
Yeah.
All right, what are we looking at, Jay?
This is a little doodle bug with a Sears tractor attachment on it. I came across this one fairly recently, just a few weeks ago. So I'm still playing around with it and trying to work through some of its quirks and stuff. But yeah, it's just a little tractor the guy used to pull a float in the local parade once a year. That's about all the history I know on it.
What state did you find this one?
This one came out of what was that? Pennsylvania. This one came out of Pennsylvania.
So it's in pretty cool shape. Is there a seat on there?
Yeah, there's a little tractor seat.
Yeah, I see it now. I see
right
it.
above the gas tank.
I think we got
But
two
it
more
runs
pictures.
it drives just like a normal T, so I feel like this would be a good one to give some easy lessons on. And it only stays in low. It doesn't go in
Okay.
high. So it's just a small, slow little T that I just drive around the property with. It's kind of fun.
So did I think the next picture shows the attachments. Did those come with it, or did you find those elsewhere?
On the next picture, no, I don't have any attachments to this one. Go ahead.
Okay, this is I think I'm causing myself harm here on the
It's going to be
pictures.
it's a different car.
Yeah.
That's those two. Yeah, that's the same one.
Yeah, that's a little bit closer picture. You can see the seat there. All right, this one here.
This one I got out of Massachusetts. It's a mower. It's got a sickle bar mower attached to it. This car was built in the 40s. The guy built 4 of them. There's 3 of them that are known to still exist. We don't know where the 4th one is. It was built to do roadside maintenance and trim the weeds and stuff on the side of the road. Back in the 40s, this was built in Pennsylvania as well. Pennsylvania has a lot of car history, but it was basically a horse-drawn sickle bar implement, and he was able to attach it to the transmission, pretty much a straight drive right to the rear axle, and it's got some gears on it that run from the rear end that run it.
Have you tried to use it yet on your property?
Once. I'm waiting for the grass in the pasture to get a little taller, and then I'm going to make a video and show it. But I've got a few pictures from the previous owner where he was doing some mowing.
All right, and here we have basically a modern tractor compared to the last one.
Yeah, this is a 50s Ferguson I picked up for doing stuff on the property. I got a little trailer for it. But yeah, and I've got a Model F Fordson tractor as well.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if I got you a picture of that. I don't really have good pictures of that one. I haven't been able to do much with it. It's got steel wheels and stuff, so I can't.
So speaking of Fordsons, there's you need to get on the one that's in Nokomis, Illinois right now. It's one of the experimental Ford tractors, Fordson tractors, and there was I think 9 experimental tractors. I think it was. I'll send you a link later, but it's documented that Henry Ford was on all the experimental tractors. And it's that, and you know what the Fordsons normally run, whether they're restored or not. This one, with 3 days left the other day, I think it was right at 19,000.
Wow. Yeah,
and it didn't say that it was running.
For me.
Yeah, it didn't say that it was running. I think it said the engine was free.
Wow.
So, but I guess that's a different collector.
Yeah, that's a big time tractor collector.
Yeah. So, Jen.
So, Todd touched on this a little bit, but tell us what driving a Model T is like in comparison to driving a regular car. Like, in your own words, tell us what that feels like to you.
Well, especially with my cars now being unrestored and survivors. I mean, it's very sloppy, the turning and stuff. So it doesn't it doesn't turn very good as far as like on a dime. The braking's very sketchy, so you have to be very careful with where you go, what hills you decide to go. Flying down. You're not going to be able to stop. It's slow. Sometimes people just are impatient and they honk at you and they're mad at you and I try to pull over into a turn lane, let the cars go by and get back on the road. But yeah, it's different. It's very interesting. I mean, I love sitting in the car and just getting that feel for what it was back in the 20s. The boxy look and just sitting on top of the steering wheel and you can see up over the hood and you're just right there. There's no safety. There's nothing. And so you get a little bit of a thrill with that. But
So not to interrupt Jen's section here, but you said about the loose steering and such. Have you had any major breakdowns while you've been out and about?
no, just the one when I was on tour with you guys. I must have had a slight radiator leak, and so we were just going along. I didn't realize it was steaming or anything. Like, yeah,
Yeah, we
I've
jumped
gotten
over the
better.
fire
I've gotten
extinguisher.
better at driving since then. That was still pretty early on for me.
My
in the
dad,
driving experience.
my dad had given us several fire extinguishers. At that point in time, my dad was extremely concerned about us going across the country. So I looked at Todd and I said, "Is that Jay's car?" And he was like, "Yeah, I think so." So I said, "Get out with the fire extinguisher." So we are coming up to you.
Well, at least it was all
Yeah.
white smoke, so that was all steam.
Yeah.
Was Patrick riding with you then?
Yes.
No. Okay, I thought so.
Yes, he was.
I thought so. I couldn't remember that. Jim, what else you got on yours for this segment?
Let's see. And I'm sorry, my phone had cut out. I got a phone call whenever you were answering that question, so I did hear part of it. But so I know your philosophy on this. Definitely, the Model Ts to us are meant to be driven and enjoyed and everything. But do you feel like a lot of people think they're just showpieces, or like what's your personal feeling on the Model Ts as far as being like showpieces, or do you think they should be driven?
Well, yeah, I mean, a little bit of both. Unfortunately, most of my cars are survivors, unrestored, and I don't want to change that or anything. So I'm very cautious with where I go, how much I drive it, because, I'm a little scared of breaking something. And then, if I got to redo a rear end or something, it's just not going to look, it's not going to have the survivor look anymore. It's going to look different. But I would like someday to get a car that's been, restored as far as at least the drivetrain and just get out and drive. I mean, I would love to drive across the country like you guys did. I'd do it a little slower, but I would love to just retired days, take my time, spend a month or two, because there's, all like you said, there's books out there of people that did it back in the 20s and just sightsee, take my time, find some country roads and just sit back and enjoy the slow ride.
Even as fast as we did it, it was still pretty slow.
Yeah. And I think that's
So-
the only way this hobby is going to survive is to get these cars out and show people, whether it's driving across the country or taking it to local car shows. I mean, you don't see these cars very often. You don't see them at every car show. A lot of them are just tucked away in people's garages. Or grandpa had one and, he's either getting too old or something and stopped driving. It's been parked there for years. And unless they grew up around it and, dad or, grandkids are driving them, like, I don't know. It's a slow dying hobby, unfortunately. And so it's going to take younger folks like us, which we're still considered young in the Model T hobby, getting them out and doing things with them.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go ahead, Jim.
I'd like to go to. I work in hospice, so we take the Model Ts out a good bit to nursing homes and kind of show them there. And we're at the point now where we're talking to people who are in their 80s and they still talk about, well, my dad had this car. It's not even the generation that's alive anymore that really remembers driving them when they were new.
Right.
And so I'm always fascinated. I think my favorite is, either having some of the older folks come in to look at it, or the very young people. We had a kid come up to us one time at a festival. He said, "That's what he said, Todd." He said, "That's the coolest."
Look at that lawnmower.
That lawnmower.
with the truck here too.
Yeah. The young kids are fascinated by the wooden wheels. Like, they just can't believe that a car has wooden wheels.
Yeah.
And that was common back then. Like, yeah.
Let's catch up with some questions real quick, and we get back to this part. Definitely need to see more Model Ts at shows. I agree with you, Heath. Pat says, I'm looking for a T or some other brass era car as a father-son project, but right now I haven't the budget. You can look hard enough or whatever, but I would definitely find something that's not a total basket case. Because Jay, you'd probably agree with me on that, because you can definitely tie up some money. And yeah, especially if it's your first one. If it's not your first one or whatever, and you've got some parts laying around, you're probably a little bit better off. And Steve says T's are an important reminder of days gone by, another age, yeah, for sure. And I want to share this little bit before we get one more segment in. This was you had just pulled out when we left to go cross country. This was on day one of our trip, and I'm in the red truck and you're in the black enclosed car. And Randall says Model T's always draw a crowd at car shows, and that always ticks off the vet guys. It does for sure. And traveling down 66 would be good too. But this was you were waiting on us. I don't remember exactly where. We were probably, I don't know, halfway through South Carolina or so. I don't know. You remember where we met up at?
Not exactly. You were probably 30 minutes into your drive, just right before you kind of got to the mainland of the island you guys were coming off of. But I tried to meet up with you as close as I could.
Yeah, that was a fun day, man.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can. And again, I think every time I pause, too funny about the vet guys. Yeah, Randall's a hoot, Heath. Anything Randall says, you're going to laugh at. I can almost guarantee it. So this was on in a little bit further, and this was a couple of your buddies that met up with us at the gas station.
Yeah, this is Chris and Jennifer. This is their 1911. Pretty much an unrestored survivor car as well. That's a really nice T. They take that to some concourses and stuff. That's a really nice T, and it runs and drives. I know Chris did some stuff to the motor, and he's not afraid to get that car out and drive it. So that's really cool.
Well, they were humming right along or whatever on that day.
Yeah.
And
I think the other car might have been a Buick or something.
No, it wasn't a Buick. It was a REO. And this was actually, I think, before, right after we met up or whatever, before that last picture. And we were kind of hauling the mail, looks like, right here. And in this segment right here, and I hope I left this picture in here. I don't know if you remember on Smokey and the Bandit. I'm a huge Smokey and the Bandit fan. Whenever he's getting chased down or whatever, and the girl's right there with the bed sheet, go Bandit or whatever. That's about how I felt coming through this town here.
Yeah.
And you were right in front of us, I think. And that's some rough footage right there with the GoPro, but
you hear people cheering. Love it.
Yeah, that was a fun little town to go through.
Yeah, that was a good route you took through South Georgia there. A lot of small old towns.
Getting some. There it is. That's how I felt going through that particular town when they were cheering and everything.
We had that we would go, a lot of small towns, and there were people that would laugh and scream and wave at us, and we just felt like celebrities by the end of it. Honestly, the Model T is just, a lot of people are attracted to it. It's a fun car. it's a showstopper and people don't see a lot of them. And so they just thought that we were like some famous people driving through. So we just, but it did.
Yeah.
So Heath apparently watches some Smoking the Bandit too.
Yeah.
He
You'll
quoted him there.
steal a car show by bringing a Model T for sure.
And Pat said that his dad turned 97 today, so happy birthday to him. If he's still with us, I don't know. And they had ordered a 26, but never received it. All right, let's go back to here. And so we can get here. And that's after we had lunch at the barbecue place.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty good picture of all of us that day.
Yeah, that was fun.
And there you are at the back of our trailer with the club logo for.
Yeah, Southern Peach Teas. That's our local Georgia club.
All right, let's see if I can get this one. All right, so you're actually, and we don't want to stay on here too much longer, but you're actually on the Model T board. How did that come about?
That came about 2023. I was doing some military training at Fort Leonard Wood. So I was in Missouri, and Missouri has like 3 big clubs. So during my weekends and stuff when I was off, I joined up with the clubs, found out when they had their board meetings, and, just went and talked to them. They had some, work days. I went and joined them for work days. I tried to get involved as much as I could. And I'd post stuff on Facebook. And Kathy Taggart, which she suggested me as someone who should join the board. They wanted to get some young blood in there and, bring some new ideas. So I ran and, I put my little story in the magazine and I won and I was elected. So this is my 3rd year on the board. I'll probably run again for next year for another 3 years. But it's been good.
How has being on the board changed you as an owner and outlook on that, on specifically Model Ts as far as yourself?
Just the fact that, it is somewhat of a slow dying hobby. Membership is slowly falling, and we're trying to figure out why or how, whether it's aging out or what, but we're trying to figure out ways to generate the youth and get them involved. And the best thing we can come up with is getting the cars out and driving them, taking them to shows, giving kids a ride in them. If their dad has one or if their grandpa has one, get them out, take them for a ride, show them how to drive, and just kind of get that fire in them, just to bring, extend the hobby and kind of like with me, taking it to the schools and showing those kids. And I don't know if any of those kids will ever buy a T, but they thought it was pretty cool. And they said one kid said their grandpa had one in the barn. Maybe they'll talk to them and get it out. I don't know, but exposure is probably the best way to keep this hobby going.
All right, let's talk about this. This is a scene from a couple of years ago. Actually, we were up there together in Richmond here for one of the homecoming. This is when they had the letter cars.
Yes, this was 2023. I was, like I said, I was still in Missouri doing some military training, and I wasn't supposed to leave the state, but I decided to rent a car, and I took off to Indiana to be a part of this. And I didn't tell anybody, so luckily nothing happened. I got back, but this was when they had the letter cars. And I really wanted to see that, the S's, the N's, the K's, the original A.
And for people that don't know, tell them where homecoming is and
Homecoming,
what
it's about. It's in Richmond, Indiana, Model T Museum. That's where the headquarters for the Model T4 Club of America is. And once a year, they kind of open up the museum. They do a theme, different times. They letter cars, or this year coming up, they're going to do speedsters. So I'm looking forward to that. They just kind of open it up. It's in a historic district. So they open it up to the public and, for the locals to come. There's a swap meet. They do a driving school, teach some people how to drive, take them for rides. They have a car show. It's just right down there in the heart of the historic district. It's a really cool old town. there's a lot of industrial buildings and stuff around there, so it sort of fits the Model T.
Yeah, I'll play this part again so everybody can see it. But it's a weekend full.
Yeah, the homecoming committee's still putting everything together and working out details, but you don't really want to miss this one if you like speedsters and Model Ts, because this is going to be really cool. They're gonna go to a local racetrack in Winchester. It's a kind of a historic track, so that's kind of cool to put the T's out there, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Jen has mentioned a couple of times about going, so
Yeah.
we may end up there again.
If you're a Model T enthusiast, come on out. You'll love it, even if you have one or not.
Yeah.
Come check it out.
What were you gonna say, Jen?
Loved it every time that we've gone. It's been we always enjoy taking the tour of the museum as well.
Yeah, they've made some changes, updated a few things, and moved things around, and got some different cars in there. So hopefully there'll be some new stuff to see next time you go.
How many homecomings have you attended? Just the one there, or have you been to two of them? Or
I've been to two. There was one a few years prior to that one, and then that one. Unfortunately, since I got on the board, I got back from Missouri, life got busy and a new job, and my National Guard stuff kind of picked up, and so I've been very busy. But the homecoming was always during the summer months. It always fell during my 2-week active duty for the Guard, so I always missed out. But this year they pushed it to August, closer to the fall, and so I'll be able to attend this year. I'm looking forward to it.
good deal. Yeah, we may end up there. We need to go back to Mark's anyway.
We do.
Yeah.
Did you just say we need to plan, John?
Sounds like it.
We are going up to see Heath, Mountaineer Motor Tours. Heath is putting on a car show in Asheville in a couple of weeks. And first one in downtown Asheville in like 50 years, I think he told us on a previous Todd Talks show.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really like what Heath's doing. I want to get my wife and I to come up there and take his tour and ride around with him.
Yeah, we haven't done that, but I mean, as much as we talked to Heath, whatever, and we haven't done that yet. We need to do that for sure, and that would be fun. I can remember, of course, we were at the Henry Ford, and we were sitting in the back seat, and I said kind of loud, I was like, I don't even know why we're doing this, why we're riding in this thing, and the guy just turns around, I was like, we have a Model T, So
I was so excited to take that tour at the Henry Ford, and Todd was like, why are we going on this?
It was fun to do. I mean, it was fun to ride in a totally restored Model T. And of course, they have two of the ones, I think one or either two of the ones they have are the modern Model Ts that they built a couple of decades or so ago, I can't remember. And from my understanding is they have more breakdowns with those than they do the original cars. I can't remember what the story was on it. Maybe Kathy Taggart, we can get her on one day to talk about that. So anyway, if you had to give some advice on someone that wants to get into it, go ahead.
When they had their driving school for the Henry Ford Museum, they had to teach the drivers how to operate the Model Ts. So Todd asked the guy who was driving us around, how long did it take to kind of learn and pick this up? He said, I think I took about 2 or 3 months, didn't he, Todd? Or something?
Yeah. He said, I think I had it down in 2 or 3 months. And I was like,
yeah, you have to do it regularly to get it down.
Yeah.
You're just
but I think some of these guys, some of the guys that work out there that do the tours and such aren't necessarily Model T guys. They were just people that worked for Ford or whatever else, and this is their kind of their retirement gig.
Yeah.
So anyway, if someone wanted to get into Model T as a hobby, where would you tell them to start? What would you suggest for them doing? And to wrap it up, where do you see this hobby in 5, 10, and 20 years for specifically on Model Ts?
I think starting out, in order to keep your, excitement and enthusiasm and keep your interest, is get one already running. Unless you really want to build one ground up and get a basket case and put in all that time and effort, And then once you finally got it up and running, learn how to drive it, you might lose interest, and then probably sell it off. But if you can find, a cheap open car, whatever, just to get you going, get one running, get in it, learn how to drive it, and go enjoy it. Take it to shows, join a local club, and do some tours with them. Because if not, it might fizzle out. Where do I see this hobby in 5 to 10 years? I still see it going. I think the younger crowd is going to eventually catch on, at least the middle-aged. Grandpa, dad, or somebody had one, and they want to carry that on. Or maybe dad never got it up and running, and they want to do that in their honor. And so I see things like that happening with some of these cars. Now that they're all going to be 100 years old next year, I think that may change a few things. But even if you don't keep them original, kind of like Heath's car, it looks original, but it's got a little bit of a modern, easier driving car. Like if you're scared of the 3 pedals and some of that, figure out a way to make it easier to drive, but get it out there and get it on the road and enjoy it.
I think that's very well said. Real quick, Randall Shedd by the track said, as far as driving the Model Ts goes, he said, I kept telling myself that housewives and 12-year-olds used to drive these things.
They did. I mean, that was all they knew how, so it wasn't weird to them. And they might have driven tractors and stuff, so they had a little bit of an experience with the pedals, but they didn't know any different. So it might have been a little easier for them because they didn't have, try to figure out how to drive 2 different style of cars.
Very true. And this is, again, for anyone that doesn't have a Model T, your throttle's up here on the right, your timing's on the left, your forward pedal's on the left, your reverse pedal's in the middle, and your brakes on the right. So you jump out of a modern car or something that has modern type set up, jump in a Model T, then jump back in a modern car. It does take a minute to get acclimated. I don't care how much you've driven a Model T, it takes at least a minute to get acclimated. And Jen will tell you, I've jumped in and out of them a couple of times, both of ours, and jumped in a modern car before and after, and just about put us through the windshield in the modern car,
You used to slam it on the brakes.
Yeah. Even though I'm using a different pedal, just used to slamming on the brakes.
Yeah.
But they're definitely fun to have, and it's opened up friendships with you and Heath and Mark, and even the guys on YouTube, Steve, Pat, Joe, Randall, we've opened up friendships, really across the world, really. We've talked to people. And so I think that's another really cool thing about the Model Ts is the reach, what there is of this hobby, the reach is far, so that's a good thing too.
No, there's a lot of people across the country that have some experience. So, the forum, Model T forum is a good place to go if you have questions. There's always some knowledge on there.
Yep. Jen, you have anything else?
No, Jay, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
We want to come see you sometime soon. We've been talking about going through Miles Through Time for a while, so we'll have to plan a meeting there with you.
Yeah, come on down. They're about 2 hours from me, up into the North Georgia mountains. But yeah, if you come down towards the Atlanta area, I'm kind of.
I do not plan on going through Atlanta to see Jay again. That was a horrible trip last time, me and Patrick.
Oh yeah, that's right. You came and got some parts.
That was some rough traffic that day. Yeah, I would rather go to Indiana and meet you up there again.
Yeah, true. Yeah, if you can stay north of Atlanta, that would work. You can cut across.
Yeah. Me and Patrick will not take that same route again. Although we did get some good barbecue while we were down there somewhere. But anyway, Jay, thanks again for joining us, man, and I appreciate you sharing everything. And we got a few more run and roll chassis that's been started by someone else has either lost interest or ability or interest. Yeah, that's another way to find something too if someone has lost interest in it. But at the same time, try to encourage them to keep it and get it on the road too.
Yes.
And thank you, Joe. But again, thanks, Jay. Thanks, Jim, for sitting in with us. thanks, Steve. Is all the thank yous are coming in now. So, but we do appreciate it, and I said we will talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks for
Well,
having
good
me.
night.
Yeah, you too.
And just hang tight.